Good morning, everybody. Early bird, thanks for coming. This is the 2023 issue of the PowerWeb conference. My name is Peter Pelensky. I'm the director of PowerWeb. Most of you might know what that is, but for those who don't, it's a cross-faculty institute. So we pull together people from different disciplines for a reason. And the reason of PowerWeb is to work on energy systems, special energy systems. They should be integrated, and intelligent, and inclusive. So 3 I's: integrated, intelligent, inclusive. That's what we work on, and it covers every aspect that you can imagine, from the physical material up to the business process and regulatory regimes. All of these parts of the value chain have something with integration, something with intelligence, and something with inclusivity. That's all I do today. That's a good job. And without further ado, I will hand over to the conference chair of this year, Professor Tamas Kewicki. Every year, the conference is organized by one of the participating faculties, and this year it's the Faculty of Mechanical Engineering, Materials and Maritime Engineering. I was not correct.
Thank you, Peter. My name is Tamas Kewicki. I'm a professor at the Delft Center for Systems and Control at the Mechanical Engineering faculty. So from next year, we have a simpler name to remember. And I would like to welcome you all to today's event on behalf of the entire organization team. We received a mandate from our scientific director to focus the theme of this event on control and optimization. So a very technical subject, in contrast with last year's event that was more towards the social aspects. We were let free, and we were a bit worried about having too technical, too nerdy topic. So I'm delighted to see so many of you nerds here. I hope that we still have also enough food to feed your technically oriented brain cells during the breaks. But if this works, can you switch? A few words about the program before we get started. So the topic of today is the role of control and optimization in integrated intelligent energy systems. And these are tools that are often hidden from our eyes, but they are present at all levels, all hierarchies of these complex integrated systems. And they're also at the core of many of the AI tools that we use. And we try to reflect that a bit in the program. We will sandwich the entire program between 2 excellent keynote talks, starting from how to use mathematical programming optimization for market integration of Power-to-X hybrid power plant, all the way to the afternoon talk that will look at how to use control and fast inverter-based resources to coordinate somehow transmission and distribution networks. In between, you will have a chance to mingle with each other during breaks and the lunch that will be all held here in the foyer. The entire program today is in this location except for one important session that is in the afternoon. The Energy SHR session is at a different location but same building, so there will be people to help you guide there in the body and mind room. This will be the kickoff of a very exciting new platform for sharing data and algorithms. So I invite you to check it out, or if you feel like, you can stick around to understand more about congestion management issues, a panel discussion, and also understanding what were the winning strategies for the Delft edition of the Learn to Run the Power Network competition. We also have, in the morning session, a deep dive into electric vehicle and grid issues, exploring power electronics, human-AI collaboration. So although the main topic of today is quite technical, there will be some elements related to the role of customers, the role of human-AI interconnection, and so on. We will take some photos of the event, so if you don't want to appear on photos, please let Alex know that you don't want to appear there. We also have Nanda and Na, if you can maybe raise your hand, who will be roaming around trying to grab you for a quick interview. Please help them out and try to entertain their questions if you have time. And before we start the actual program, I would also like to ask everyone to get a badge and invite the Vice Dean of my faculty, the Mechanical Engineering faculty, Professor Benix Jan Boersma, to please share your thoughts as a welcome.
Thank you, Thomas. Good to see so many people. So this conference this year is organized by 3ME, and the Dean of 3ME, Fred van Keulen, could not make it, so I'm going to replace him. But I'm not only the Vice Dean of the faculty, but I'm also Chair of Energy Technology. So for me, it's also good to see so many people working in the energy field over here. When I started as a professor in energy technology, I think that was something like 20 years ago, we were still looking at coal-fired power plants, rotating equipment, steam turbines, gas turbines. I liked it a lot. But yeah, over the years, we have seen a gradual transition within mechanical engineering from these large-scale systems to fuel cell-based systems and other renewable systems. And nowadays, the focus of mechanical engineering is not anymore on these large-scale power systems, but we're now looking more to electrolyzers, producing hydrogen. So the focus of mechanical engineering has shifted from these classical big systems to smaller systems. And these systems are driven by electricity, or in the future we hope they are driven by electricity. Within mechanical engineering, we see a gradual transition from the classical mechanical systems, thermodynamic systems, heat and power, to more systems which are driven by electricity. I think this is also within mechanical engineering, power, electricity becomes more and more important, and it is good to see so many people over here who are interested in this topic. And also prepared some slides, but sorry, they didn't make it. I would like to stop over here and I wish you all a good and pleasant conference, and I hope you learn a lot.
Thank you very much. I forgot to show the organizing team, so appreciation to all of them to contributing to this wonderful program today. We would like to get started already with the technical program to give enough time for interaction and questions and answers. So I would like to invite Professor Sergio Grammatico to come and introduce our first keynote speaker of the day. We also have a very festive event today because it's a 10 years anniversary of our institute. So you will see some elements popping up in the program and at the end as well. But what could be more festive than start with this excellent keynote? So Sergio, please go ahead.
Thank you, Thomas, and good morning, everyone. I'm Sergio Grammatico, and I'm also affiliated with the Delft Center for Systems and Control. And today I have the pleasure of introducing our first keynote speaker, Professor Jalal Kazempour, from DTU, Danish Technical University. He's the head of the EMA group, Energy Markets and Analytics, which is part of the Department of Wind and Energy Systems. Jalal studied in Iran, and then he moved to Spain for his PhD at University of Castilla-La Mancha, where he graduated in 2013. Then he moved to the United States for his postdoc at Johns Hopkins University, and afterwards he moved to Denmark for postdoc fellowship and then an assistant professorship in his current group. Jalal has a number of awards and recognitions for his work on game theory and optimization for power systems and energy markets. I will not go through all of them. I will just remind the 2022 Base Paper Award in the IEEE transactions on power systems for his paper on differentially private optimal power flow. So Jalal, we are very pleased to have you here today, and we're very much looking for your talk.
Thank you. Let me first make sure it works, which doesn't. But anyway, let me start while this is fixing. Thank you so much. Oh, it works. No. Well, anyway. Thank you so much for inviting me, and thanks, Sergio, for very nice words. I will not talk about differential privacy today, but yeah, we'll talk about something else you will see in a minute. But first, I would like to say happy anniversary. 10 is a milestone, so that's fantastic. So that's really good. I'm always happy and very pleased to be at TU Delft, visiting different colleagues from different faculties. It took me a while to understand the structure of faculties, departments. Peter last time explained me. I think I remember. And thanks a lot to Peter, to Sergio, to Payman, to Tomasz, and all others for inviting me. Thanks a lot. Yeah, today I'm going to talk about, yeah, it works. In different order, but fine. Today I'll talk about Power to X. That's a topic that our industry in Denmark started asking me and my section to start working on that. I saw a big demand, and that's why I started working on that. And I suppose that it could be also a hype in Netherlands. Maybe you can confirm that. How is it? Oh, yeah. So Peter confirms. How many of you are working on Power to X? And how many of you are keen about Power to X and hydrogen as the future? Good. And how many of you are working on TSO services, on ancillary services? Okay, good. I hope that for the rest, I have something new to offer. If not, well, I apologize in advance. Good. I'm going to talk about mathematical programming for market integration of Power to X. Simply, if we like to have informal topic or informal title, it's about how to make money out of Power to X systems. That's why most of the companies, they reach out to me in the first place. Though the title says mathematical programming, and there are a lot of heavy math behind that, but I will not going to show you much equations, or maybe I will not show you at all equations. More, I will talk about the concepts, and I will share with you some results. But I will provide you the link for papers, so if you are keen on the model, you can go and check the papers. Good. First of all, I have to say that the credit of this work, it goes to my colleagues, Leslie, assistant professor, PhD students, Enrica, Andrea, Yannick, Alice, and my former master students, Manuel, Marco, Anton, and Mas. Okay, and the title says that a real case study in Denmark, and it's about that. It's a plant, demonstration plant belonging to Siemens Gamesa, and we are, in this specific project, we are working with them. It's kind of a small pilot, but now we are moving to a bigger pilot, testing the same models for a larger demonstration. And that's part of my colleagues working on Power to X. Today I'm going to talk a bit about preliminaries, why Power to X. For some of you that you didn't raise your hand, hopefully it will be motivating, why Power to X. Then we will have a very quick overview of TSO services, and I will share with you the challenges, the research questions, why we have to work on these problems. And then I will tell you quickly about a few different things, one about physical modeling of Power to X assets, especially electrolyzers, value of ancillary services for electrolyzers and portfolio management, some optimization, stochastic optimization there. Good. Why Power to X? First of all, before saying why, this is what's happening in Denmark. I suppose something similar is happening in Netherlands. So 4 to 6 gigawatt of electrolyzers will be installed in different places of Denmark by 2030. And just, okay, 4 to 6 may not look too big for some countries, but I have to say that the current peak demand in Denmark is about 5 to 6 gigawatt. So it means that by 2030, remember electrolyzers, they are demands, power demands. They are loads for power systems. It means that we are going to double our load in, 7 years. That's big thing. And you see some numbers, how much investment we envision is going to happen in Denmark by 2030. And yeah, I'm trying to understand how this works. Yes. Yeah, but yeah. And why Power to X? First of all, you can think of the electrification of how to transform industries, especially, for example, shipping, transportation. Especially e-methanol. So that would be fantastic if we use Power to X to electrify the sectors that we haven't thought of it before to electrify them, right? So that's one reason. And also then for the power system, you can think of electrolyzers as fast, flexible loads that they can bring us demand-side flexibility. If we really want to go towards 100% renewables, we need flexibility in a large scale. And maybe electrolyzers is not the only solution, but could be part of the solutions. Here I'm going to talk about hybrid power plants. So it's like the picture I showed you, the pilot of Siemens Gamesa, for example. The core is an electrolyzer co-located with some wind turbines. It could be in different sizes. And then the electrolyzer can produce, through a compressor, can produce hydrogen. And then, well, so far we don't have hydrogen networks much, but we can transport hydrogen through tube trailers, right? So you can imagine that the products of this system could be power through wind farms, could be hydrogen through electrolyzers, and also it could be TSO services. For example, here, as an example, I put FCR, frequency containment reserve there. So we have a combination of assets, and then we can produce different products. And here I'm more a market person, and you can imagine that I'm so keen on the business models, how we can earn the highest profit for this kind of hybrid power plant. If we make sure that they are making money, then we are developing a business model for them, and then we will have more and more hybrid power plants installed in reality. Well, so as I said, the products of this kind of hybrid power plant could be power to be sold in various trading floors, day-ahead market, or in long-term markets, or intraday market, balancing market. Hydrogen, so far we don't have hydrogen market, but we can have hydrogen purchase agreements, so we can sell it at fixed price or different form of the prices. TSO services and DSO services. So far, the technology developers, I talked to them, also our TSO in Denmark and Keynote, they are telling me that they envision electrolyzers will be able to provide different forms of ancillary services. For example, MFRR, manual frequency restoration reserves, that's for sure. FCR, well, it depends on technology. Maybe electrolyzer alone cannot, but then if we combine it with a battery, maybe it's possible. Also, it's not much explored yet, but if the electrolyzer, they're small scale and connected to the distribution system, maybe they can also produce DSO services, which is not part of my discussion today. So an overview of markets. Remember, in Europe, we have day-ahead market and intraday market being cleared by market operators, but then we have national markets or being cleared by TSOs. First, we have reservation markets for FCR, for MFRR, different form of ancillary services, and then we have balancing market. And remember this famous figure. I'm sure that many of you already seen this, saw this figure. So in Europe, we have the blue part is the continental Europe and the synchronous area. And also the green one is the Nordic one. Both of them, they have 50 hertz frequency, but they are not synchronous, right? And the interesting things about Denmark is that part of Denmark, DK1, bidding zone DK1, is a part of European continental. And the other one, DK2, including Copenhagen, it's part of Nordic area. So Energinet is running country half in one synchronous area, the other in the European one. So why this is interesting? Because in European one, including Netherlands, it's more stable system, and there is a good inertia. So there are typical three forms of ancillary services: FCR, AFRR, and MFRR. But in Nordic area, it's a smaller system. Also, there is higher integration of renewables. We have some inertia issues. That's why the Nordic TSOs, including Energinet, they introduce extra forms of ancillary services, including FCRN, FCR for normal situation, FCRD, frequency containment reserve, in disturbance situations. And also, they defined FFR, fast frequency reserve. So why I'm talking about that, I'm not really into technicalities, because every of those services, they have a market. And who clears that market? That's the TSOs. So you can imagine that then TSOs, they are running, at least in Denmark, they are running some markets for DK1, different markets in DK2, right? Good, this is the technicalities of ancillary services I got from Energinet, our TSO's website, the different form of the services, from the FFR, which is the fastest, to MFRR, which is the slowest in DK2, and FCR, AFRR, and MFRR, their technicalities in DK1. And who can provide that? This is again from our TSO Energinet, and it shows that, for example, electrolyzer alone, they can produce FCRD and FCRN, and also they can produce FCR. This is what Energinet, our TSO, they envision. So I told you that there are different markets for different ancillary services. I can say that it's kind of a bit of a mess. I can explain you. This is the different markets that Energinet, our TSO, they are clearing every day. Not day-ahead market. It's part of the Nord Pool, but I put it just to show the timeline. So for example, FCRN in DK2, we have two markets, one being cleared 2 days before, D-2, to book some reservation, and then in D-1, after the day-ahead market, at 6 p.m., we have the second market, and it's optional. So as a producer, you don't know if that market will happen or not. So if Energinet realize that, okay, they already bought enough capacity, they will not run the second market in D-1. And now you can see how many markets, this is complication, we have. And then you ask, for example, the owner of hybrid power plant who would like to invest in these technologies, you would like to have a business model, you see different, many markets that you have to make decisions for every market. Would you like to go and bid in that market or not? So from optimization perspective, you can imagine this is a multi-stage decision-making problem. If you are sitting there, it means that there are many, many stages ahead of you that you have to make decisions for their biddings. Good. EBITDA of historical data, FCRN, FCRD activations. And as you see, FCRN, they are being activated a lot because it's in the normal situation, but D not. But what about prices, historical prices in Denmark in from 2015 to 2022, especially last year in 2022, you can see that the prices for ancillary services, they were crazy. You can see, for example, the orange one, FCRD down in Copenhagen. For every megawatt, even we had a price of 500 euros. That's a lot. That's why in Denmark you can see a lot of companies, startups, they started, buying small electrolyzers, small batteries, and trying to participate in those markets. And it's a very hot topic. But if you ask me that if this is going to last, I don't know. Sorry, still I'm trying to understand. Yeah, okay. Okay, challenges. So this is, imagine you are the operator of this hybrid power plant. So you can participate in electricity market, in different ancillary service markets. Also, you can produce hydrogen, right? So for that, you need to solve some multi-stage optimization problems and make bidding decisions. But the problem is that in the uncertainty part, there are a lot of uncertainty in terms of price forecast, in terms for day-ahead market, for balancing market, also for your wind production. For ancillary services, even the uncertainty is more. I mean, there are not much historical data, and it's very not easy task to forecast the price for ancillary services. Also, remember, I showed the picture. The profile is really non-stationary. The old historical data, they are not telling you much. So you are not gonna learn much by seeing the historical data. Then hydrogen, luckily we have less uncertainty there. It's all based on the contracts. But still, the tube trailer availability could be a source of uncertainty. And the companies I work with them, they are keen on that, to understand how to model the uncertainty of tube trailers. Any other challenge? So any challenge so far, high dimensionality, we have many sources of uncertainty. So if you are so keen on optimization, we have a lot of uncertainties. Non-stationary, as I just said, the environment, the stochastic environment is changing. It's not the environment that we can learn much from the historical data. Lack of enough historical data. Why? For example, FCRD down, just recently introduced in Denmark. We don't know much data about that. Or like a year ago, the balancing market in Denmark is switched from dual price to one price. It's totally different mechanism. We don't have much historical data there. And then conditionality. It means that our distribution for forecast error, it depends on what our deterministic forecast is. For example, if today is, I don't know, September, we should check the historical data of the days that they are similar to today. If we go and learn from the historical data that those days they are not similar to today, maybe they will be misleading. Any other challenge that we envision? The physics of assets. Electrolyzers are kind of new assets, at least for us power engineers, and how to model that, it's new. It's not explored much yet. And why it's important to understand that? Because the physics of electrolyzers, it's nonlinear. What I'm saying is that the efficiency, the ratio of converting power to hydrogen, it depending how much you are consuming, it's nonlinear. So your efficiency, for example, here, if you consume as electrolyzer at 20% of your nominal capacity, you are going to produce, for every 1 megawatt, you are going to produce, I don't know, 18.7 kilogram. But if you operate in 40%, then it will go up to 20 kilogram, right? If you like to make informed decisions, we have to understand, we have to model this physics, this nonlinear physics in our optimization problems. Sergio, how much time do I have? 23, fantastic. Good, again, why I'm working on this topic, again, many companies, they are so keen working on that, at least in Denmark these days. So as a person that I try to be problem-oriented rather than method-oriented, I see where the companies, they have questions, and then I try to adapt my research there. Good, now I'd like to tell you a bit about our research. First, before talking about decision-making and optimization, I told you that it's really important to think about the physics of the assets that we are working with, right? So many people, there are not much extensive literature on modeling electrolyzers, at least in the power system community. I think we are not using this, right? Or are we? Okay. Yeah, so many people in the literature, they are using piecewise linearization. Piecewise linearization It's the typical natural approach to deal with that nonlinearity. So this great people in my team, they looked into that to see that how important to carefully do piecewise linearization for the modeling the nonlinear efficiency curve. So remember, this is the nonlinear efficiency curve we have. So what we can do is that we can use some stepwise linear approximation, as many people they do in the literature, and see what happens. Before telling the rest, just I would like to say that electrolyzers, they are operating in 3 states: on, off, like all other conventional, for example, generators, and also standby. Standby is the 3rd state of electrolyzers. It means that they are consuming power, but they are not producing hydrogen, but they are being, some power, they are being consumed to keep electrolyzer pressurized. Good. So this some small case study and some numbers that you can see. You can check the slides later. But what I like to show you is this. How important to have more careful piecewise linearization. Here we checked with the cases that we modeled the nonlinearity of the electrolyzer with 1 piece, 4 pieces, and 12 pieces. And then you can see with the gray curve, the day-ahead market, the day-ahead market price. And here you can see that the red one, the black one is the consumption of the electrolyzer, how much they consume. And then you see that, okay, when we have more segments, we can better model the nonlinear efficiency curve of the electrolyzer, and therefore they are responding to day-ahead market prices. So for example, in hour 6, that the day-ahead price is high, then the electrolyzer decides to not produce hydrogen, and other way around. Well, this is a very expected result, not very surprising, but what is important is that, remember, we may put this optimization problem in a stochastic setup with many scenarios. When we define segments, for each of the segments, we need a binary variable. So if you go with many segments, and if you go to a stochastic programming, for example, with scenarios, this means that you may end up with many, many binary variables, and it will be really hard to solve. So what we did in this research is that, how much it matters to carefully model the nonlinear physics of the electrolyzer. This is the distribution of day-ahead prices in Denmark in 2019. So you can imagine that there is a lower bound that if the price is low, you know that electrolyzer will operate in full capacity. The price is low, so it doesn't matter what the nonlinearity curve is, you are going to work at the full capacity with a certain efficiency. Also, you know that if the price is that high, the electrolyzer will not consume power at all. So we try to find those, the analytical results for those prices for upper band and lower band. You can check the paper how we derived that. But what is important is the green area. So you can forecast your price, your day-ahead price. If it's in that green area, you should be very careful how you are modeling the physics of your electrolyzer. If the spot price, day-ahead price is more than here 42 or less than 32, for example, in this case, you don't need to care about the physics of the electrolyzer. So this gives you kind of ex-ante indications. Is it important for you to model electrolyzer carefully or not? Which is good. Then, well, we engineers, always we try to find easy solutions. So if we see something nonlinear, we rush into piecewise linearization, adding a lot of binaries. So in the other research, we started thinking, do we really need to do that? Or maybe our optimization colleagues, they offer you something better. That's why we started thinking about modeling electrolyzer, the physics of electrolyzers, using conic programming. How many of you knows about conic programming? A few. But the simplest thing is that what we are trying to do is that Let me explain. This is the piecewise linearization, what people they do mostly in the literature. What we can do here is that maybe what we can do is that we can model the quadratic curve of the electrolyzer, not by a single linear curves, but the quadratic curves. Then they will appear in the object in the constraints. It will bring non-convexity. But if we relax it, if we form it, if we write it in the form of quadratic constraints, second-order constraints, then our problem will be convex. But why we are thinking of that, we are making the problem harder, because then we don't need to add extra binary variables. Then the life will be much easier when we solve our optimization problems. So what we try to do is that we try to fit a quadratic curve and use convex relaxation, or even maybe start thinking, maybe even, it might be a bit crazy, but to put two quadratic curves. And then it's the model to decide which quadratic curve to pick. We did some analysis, and what we realized, and you can check the paper, is that at least in 3 different operational conditions, although we model the physics of electrolyzer by quadratic curve and relax it, instead of equality constraints, we write it as inequality constraints, but still our relaxation is exact. And the main reason for this is that our objective function, is a profit maximization. We have to produce hydrogen as much as we can if it helps. And then because of that, the objective function pushes the quadratic constraint to be active. There are only a few cases that we realize that, okay, after relaxation, it will not be exact. So we need to restore feasibility. So in the paper, you can check that in most of the operational conditions, although we are modeling our electrolyzers by a quadratic curve and relax it as an inequality constraint, it's exact. There is a mathematical proof for that. And that's fantastic. That's a good takeaway. We don't need necessarily to add binary variables always to linearize a nonlinear curve. Now, I like to focus more on system aspects. So we learned how we can model electrolyzers and its nonlinear curve. Now how we can use it for producing services to power grid. So we considered only DK1, the Danish bidding zone DK1, and we consider MFRR up and down markets, the slow ancillary service, and FCR, the fast one, frequency containment reserve. So MFRR, what happens, remember we have 2 MFRR markets in Denmark, but we merged them to 1 for simplicity. So at some point, even before they had market, the electrolyzers, they can bid in the MFRR reservation market. For example, they can say that I'm gonna produce you can book me for 1 megawatt MFRR capacity. And then, if necessary, the TSO will activate the electrolyzer. In case of MFRR up, it means that the electrolyzer should consume less, right? So what this means in a business perspective for the electrolyzer, so for producing capacity, you will be paid. And then here, you should consume less, so you have to pay back at the balancing price. Also, you are losing the chance of producing hydrogen. So that's 2 costs for you. Also, we have MFRR down. Again, in this case, sorry. Oops. It's a bit confusing still for me. Yeah. So also in MFRR down, what you do is that you book some capacity in the day-ahead market, and you will be paid in the day-ahead in the forward stage. But when you produce MFRR down, it means that you have to consume more, you have to pay for that, but also you will produce more hydrogen, which is good for you. And then we have FCR markets. In FCR market, it's automatic activation. You have to check the frequency all the time. So depending how the frequency is deviating from the 50 hertz, you will be automatically activated, right? So in the FCR one, you will be only, at least in Denmark, it's the case that you will be only paid for the reservation, but whatever it is you are being activated in the real time, you will not be paid for that. But usually the activations of FCR market, it's symmetric, sometimes up, sometimes down, and usually they cancel out each other. Good. So this is some prices of MFRR and FCR markets in Denmark in bidding zone DK1 in year 2021 and year 2022. And also DK2, including Copenhagen, in year 2022. Let's start first looking at the prices, historical prices in DK1 in 2021 and 2022. So the orange is the day-ahead prices, the price distribution of the day-ahead market for FCR capacity market and MFRR up market. Do you notice something in these two plots if you compare them? So in 2022, the FCR market prices, they were crazy, while it's not the case in 2021. And that's why you can imagine that the FCR providers, they earned a lot of money in Denmark in that year. Also, they had prices, was kind of similar distribution in 2 years. This is for DK2, the area including Copenhagen in 2022. And again, also here, it was crazy, the prices last year. So the day-ahead price range was from 0 to, I don't know, around 1,000. And also MFRR. MFRR in DK2 was very pricey, while it's not much the case in DK1. So again, that's why a lot of startups, small companies, they start being born in Copenhagen area, trying to sell TSO services. And that's a very good business. So my PhD student started working for the pilot I showed you, a potential value analysis. So imagining that our electrolyzer perfectly knows those prices. So this is like an ideal benchmark. And to see how much they could earn if they participated in MFRR and FCR markets in those 2 years, right? So let's first focus on 2021, no ancillary services. So we saw that in that year, the orange one, that's the cost you have to pay for buying power. And then the green one is the revenue by selling hydrogen. So their difference is this bar, that's the profit. So that will be the profit if the electrolyzer only sticks to their main business by selling hydrogen. Then we have a case of Oracle. The electrolyzer participates in all ancillary service markets, and they exactly know the prices, and they exactly know how they will be activated. That's the maximum profit they could earn. So you can see that the profit from around 6 million euro over the year will go up to around 12. It's around, increasing the profit by a factor of 2. That's fantastic. But Oracle, well, it's not pragmatic. You don't know the activation beforehand. We have 2 more cases, alpha activation equal to 0 and 1. In both of them, still you secure your capacity, so you don't compromise TSO. But in alpha equal to 0, you assume that always the activation will be 0. It's kind of optimistic. So always your hydrogen production will be based on what you planned in the day-ahead market. While alpha equal to 1 is a kind of pessimistic case that you see whatever you say, whatever I sell as a capacity, it will be fully activated. So it will change my hydrogen production plan. And then we ran it for 2022, 21, and we saw that, okay, the profit in both cases, in both a bit more realistic cases, will be a bit less than Oracle. But in both cases, all three cases, the profit is more than the case that electrolyzer doesn't provide ancillary services at all. Okay? It was the case in 2021. In 2022, it was a chaotic. It's kind of crazy. Because of the very high day-ahead prices, the electrolyzer, if not producing hydrogen, the profit was simply zero. There was no business for electrolyzers if they only produce hydrogen. Because hydrogen price, we assume it's around €3 per kilogram. It's fixed price, but the day-ahead prices in 2022 in DK1 were so high. But also FCR prices were crazy in 2022. That's why if they participated in the FCR market, their profit will increase, would increase insanely to 30 million euro, right, in the Oracle. And in two pragmatic cases, still they could earn a lot. But there's a very good question. If you are the owner of hybrid power plant, or if you would like to invest in those technologies, you will ask yourself, okay, if I invest today, I could earn a lot in 2022. But can I also earn next year? Will it be the case or not? That's really important questions that I don't have an answer now. But I'm not sure that it's easy to answer at all. But us researchers, it's something that we can work on. If we can help developers to go for more hydrogen and so forth, we are helping the power grid, and we are helping the green transition, I think. Yeah, that's what I explained. So about the quantities, so you can see that in 2021, you mostly, or not mostly, yeah, you produce more FCR capacities over a year, but also MFRR. But in 2022, because of very high prices of FCR, you decide it's more beneficial for you to produce FCR services. How much time do I have? 10 minutes? Okay, now let's talk about a bit of stochastic optimization. Portfolio management problem using DRO. How many of you knows about DRO? A few. Good, I can explain a bit. So, from Siemens, Gamesa, or others companies' perspective, we would like to maximize the profit. So far, in the previous study, it was an ideal benchmark. We assume that we perfectly knows all prices. Not activation, but we know everything. But now let's challenge that assumption and say that we don't know the exact prices, but we have to bid in different markets beforehand, before the price is released. So we have a distribution, forecast error distribution of electricity price, wind generation, but hydrogen price is fixed. Then we need to optimally schedule our electrolyzer. But it's not only the uncertainties. Also remember, we have all these markets in Denmark for ancillary services, right? And if you like to use all your opportunities, we would like to model the uncertainty of prices in those markets. I don't know how many markets for ancillary services you have in the Netherlands, but I suppose it could be similar. So if you like to do a good job, if you like to do, if you're trying to find a good topic for your PhD, for example, you have a lot of uncertainty sources, different markets, also your production, also, for example, the tube trailer that is going to come and pick your hydrogen. You have all these uncertainties. Some of them, they are correlated. For some of them, you don't have much historical data, or even if you have, they are useless because the environment is very non-stationary. Then the question is, how much I should bid? What should be my participation strategy in different markets to earn the highest profit and make hybrid power plants in a business perspective viable and to see more of them coming in the world, right? So The challenge is modeling the uncertainties and also mitigating risk. So what we started doing is that, assuming that the stochastic environment is stationary, we are learning, we could learn from historical data. We, for example, started looking at 100 days before today and see that what was our forecast for wind and, for example, for day-ahead price, and what was the realization. So we try to learn the distribution errors, collect more and more and more historical forecast data. Then what happens is that for today, we have forecasts, but we don't know the realizations. But from historical data, we learned the distribution of forecast error. It's the empirical distribution. Does it follow a certain distribution form, Gaussian or whatever? No. So what we can do is that either we can try to fit the distribution to some well-known distribution, which is a big assumption, and then try to derive some scenarios. I mean, many people, they do that, right? Or what we can do is that we can try to derive a family of distributions based on the empirical distribution. Then, when we are making decision, trying to find the worst distribution in our packages, and then optimize our problem against that. Is it clear? So instead of assuming that you perfectly know the distribution of your forecast error, try to generate a family of that, 100 of distributions. Then when you optimize your problem, try to find the worst one, and then optimize your problem against that. So I'd like to show you some results. Here, first of all, the y-axis is how much, on average, an electrolyzer, a hybrid power plant can earn in euro. So that's daily profit for a small plant. The x-axis is percentage improvement. What does it mean? When it's 0, it means that we exactly use the forecast error distribution that we saw in our real data. Then we started cheating and saying that, okay, if our historical data, our forecast error was a bit better, it was more accurate, we increased it by 1%. So it's 1% our historical data, they are more accurate. It's kind of cheating. And we started increase that. So for example, 18%, it means that by 18% we improved ex post the accuracy of our forecast errors. So by that, for example, Siemens Gamesa can see that, okay, my forecast accuracy today is here, but if I improve it by 18%, by using advanced forecasting methods or whatever, I'll be here, okay? Then we started using different methods, including DRO, distribution robust optimization. Okay, control, it means, but still it's a DRO, but we are adaptively learn how many or how to include distributions in our family of distributions. SAA is just sample average approximation that we pick randomly from historical data and generate scenarios. And the DET is deterministic. We say that, okay, we have a forecast. I don't care about historical data. Based on my current forecast, I make decisions. Hope it's clear. So we start with DRO, that we think it's a very good stochastic model. Also for PhD students, I think it's good to look at if you haven't done before. So we have two curves for DRO. One, the upper one, we call it active. The lower bound, we call it passive. What does it mean, active? In active, it says that you make day-ahead decisions. You know exactly how much to produce in different markets. You know how to generate hydrogen in the next day. But then also in the next day, you have a perfect foresight. And then in hour 24, the last day of the day that you are producing hydrogen, you can reschedule your hydrogen production in the day. It's not realistic, but it provides you oracle. It shows that how much maximum you could earn. The passive one, the lower bound, is the realistic one, but the naive one. It says that in the day-ahead market, based on all the decisions, all the uncertainties, you schedule how much power to buy in the day-ahead market, how much ancillary services to sell, how much hydrogen and which time to produce a day before, but in the day that you are doing, though there are new realizations, you do nothing. You stick to your day-ahead schedule. You are totally passive. So we run the model for both of them, and then we saw that the DRO, well, here starting gradually improving when we have better forecasts, right? Upper bound and lower bounds, active and passive strategies. Then we have deterministic one. In the deterministic one, we don't care about historical data. We have just the one forecast at the moment, and based on that, we make decisions. And you can see that how naive is to use deterministic model if you don't have good forecast. So never use deterministic model unless you exactly know that how great your forecast is. Then we have two other cases, SAA, sample average approximations, stochastic programming. And also the DRO one, when you adaptively learn how to produce probability distributions in your box. So what we see here, we see that if your forecast accuracy is as it is today, the best one for you is to use DRO because you don't know much about the distribution, forecast distribution, forecast error distribution. So that's really nice. For the DRO pros, it shows that DRO, in this case, it beats SAA. And many people that they started developing DRO, they wanted to see that. And you can expect that by having better and better forecasts, DRO becomes too conservative. And SAA beats DRO unless you improve DRO how to generate distributions. If you have better data, you produce less conservative distributions. So that's the kind of message that you have to take care of different uncertainties. You have to know how good your forecast is. You have to know how to learn from your historical data and then bring it in your operational decisions. And depending what the quality of your data is, you may have different options. Okay? That's all. So my takeaways, when you start working on new assets, you have to look into the physics of that asset, making sure that we are not making naive assumptions like constant efficiency or putting extra binary variables, making our computations hard, while, for example, we can avoid that, but of course at the cost of moving from linear domain to conic domain. I'm not saying that conic domain necessarily is better, but what I'm saying is that look at all the options. So physics are important. Second, multi-markets. This is a tough portfolio management problem. You have different products that you can produce. There are different markets. There are a lot of uncertainties. So it's very interesting to think how to play, how to dance among different markets and to earn the highest. Uncertainty is key. Uncertainty is key. You have to learn from your historical data, if they are useful, to model your uncertainty and make better operational decisions. Otherwise, you will lose. Otherwise, we will lose the chance of having more and more hybrid power plants in reality. If we want to push green transition, we can't know how to play with data and how to bring them in the operational tasks and in the decision-making tasks. Yes, thank you so much. I hope I stick to the time, and thanks a lot for listening to my talk.
Thank you very much, Jalal. We have time for questions.
Thank you. Sorry, David Shipworth, University College London. I'm thinking back to the great financial crisis of 2008 and the way financial engineers packaged risk on the assumption of uncorrelated risk in classes into collateralized debt obligations. So what you've painted here is a very large number of uncertainties with unknown and possibly unknowable covariant structures.
Yeah, that's the world we are in there. Yeah.
And given that we're moving into a period of rapid transition and much greater climate impacts on our energy systems, how confident can we be that the whole system won't blow up in our face because we haven't thought about covariances which come in under edge cases?
I think that's $1 million question. It's tough to answer that. We don't know that. I think we need more and more data to understand how the correlation structure is. And by the way, as I told you, it's not necessarily a stationary environment. So even if we learn, it might be useless for the next days or for next years. So it's a really $1 million question. And yeah, I think many regulators, policymakers, they will just simply take very conservative measures and not being super pro because of mitigating the risk, because we don't know what environment we are there. And just to avoid what happened, for example, as you said in 2009. What I can say is that that's a great question. It's very interesting. What the answer is, I'm not sure that anyone knows it for sure. But very great insight.
All right, other questions?
Hi, I'm Diederik Kuipers. I work for the grid operator Stedin. I have a question. You started your presentation with the case of Denmark, where you're expecting 4 to 6 gigawatts of electrolyzers, which is huge, as you mentioned, would double the current demand capacity. How realistic is it that ancillary services will become a part of the business case for all of those electrolyzers, or are we looking at?
You mean technology-wise, or having a business model?
Yeah, from a business model perspective. I don't know how much capacity is currently involved in the Danish market with ancillary services, but it's just a little hard to imagine that 6 gigawatts of capacity will be used at any given moment in the ancillary services market.
Exactly. It's about, okay, if we go for 6 gigawatt new electrolyzers, all of them, if they are capable technologically to produce ancillary services, do we have market to sell all those services? I think this is the question. Again, that's a very good question. That's what we are constantly talking with our TSO and Energinet. They think there is room, potential, but again, for them, it's really hard to have long-term forecast how much services will be needed for the grid. But what I can say is that, okay, for DK1, as a part of European synchronous area, we are going to have pan-European markets, right? Marie, Picasso, and others. So there will be more markets. There will be more demands, but also it means that there will be more suppliers, not only in Denmark, but also Netherlands and others. How the demand will be, what kind of projection we have, that's, again, a great question that I don't have answer. I don't think anyone has the right answer for that. For DK2, now we are having a Nordic balancing model, kind of, again, having a joint market, but in the Nordic area. Again, the same story. But I guess there will be more demand there because the system is smaller and there's more renewables integrated there. But yeah, that's a good question.
Any other question for Professor Kazempour? Yes?
Thank you for the very nice presentation. My name is Yashar from Rotterdam School of Management. So thinking about the business model, I haven't thought that FCR markets could be a business model, business case for electrolyzers.
At least now it is, with that price as it is.
And my pessimism is with the round trip efficiencies of the electrolyzers. I'm thinking that there are better, because you're using power to hydrogen and hydrogen to power. So this round trip efficiency, if you compare it with other alternatives, this is not very competitive. And there is also this additional storage that perhaps you need, because with the FCR market, it might or might not be activated. So the hydrogen that you have created, you have to do something with it. So this external storage costs and the
definitely you need extra storage to be co-located for electrolyzer if you go for FCR. Also, I'm not a technological person. Many people, I'm hearing from our TSO that technologically it's possible, but a key factor that also I didn't model here is the degradation cost. So we have to also understand how electrolyzers, they are being degraded. For FCR, they should not be a big problem because it's not energy intensive service, but for MFRR, definitely it's very energy intensive. So we have to put degradation costs in our models. So my model, what I showed you, is kind of naive or optimistic without degradation costs. About the alternative solutions, well, still we have demand side flexibility from, I don't know, thermostatically controlled load and others. But I don't think we should think, okay, we have either this or that. We should have all the sources on the table and see from what sources we can get more. I think there was another part of the question that maybe I forgot.
Investor, if you want to invest either on electrolyzers or an alternative, would you choose electrolyzer for FCR market?
Oh, by the way, I forgot to say, also our TSO, they just introduced more dynamic requirements for electrolyzers and for any technology to produce FCRD services, just being aligned with what you said. As an investor, do you prefer investing in electrolyzers or others? It's a tough question. It depends not only for FCR, because if you go for electrolyzer, it's not just for FCR. It also depends on the hydrogen price, the prices of other products in the downstream, like e-methanol and others. So FCR is just byproduct. It's not the main business, though in 2022, it could be the main business. So I don't think the investors will decide only by looking into FCR prices. They will see it as a byproduct.
All right, one last question from Tamas.
Yeah. I have this special mic, so sorry for that. I have a question about your DRO approach. I'm wondering if it's conceivable to imagine a situation, let's say you have multiple hybrid power plants, that your production schedule actually influences your electricity price and maybe even the related uncertainty. So you will end up with some sort of decision-dependent uncertainty. How would you deal with that? That
for sure it could be the case. You are asking two things. One is being price taker or price maker and having a game between them. For now, they are not that big in terms of the capacity. There are no evidence that they act as a price maker strategic today. But yeah, by 2030, if they will be the half of the Danish system, yes, that should also be explored, that's for sure. But also you mentioned about correlation between them, right? The uncertainty maybe.
That your decisions influence the uncertainty.
Maybe they can help each other also. For example, if there is a special, temporal correlation between them, if we incentivize them to share data with each other, then this will be good for them, not for the one that gets better quality, high quality data, and also good for the system because people, they are making decisions in less uncertainty. But that's another nice research question, how, not just for hybrid power plants, but for any plants. If they are seeing uncertainty, and there is a correlation among them, how as a system operator we can encourage people to start sharing data Most likely they will not do that because of privacy, because of being competitors. So that's another topic that we are also thinking a lot about, monetizing data, how we can incentivize people to share data. Then having correlation will be very interesting. They can help each other to make better decisions and good for the system. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And let us all thank Professor Kazempour once again.
Thank you.
Now, as the conversation was gravitating towards game theory for energy systems, we have a board game for you as a small gift of appreciation, cool. Gigawatt. Thank you very much.
That's fantastic. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Yes, so before, I'm told that before the break, that will be very shortly, and before the morning session that will start at 11 sharp, we kindly ask you to stay seated so we can take a group picture.